Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Faith and Family First. I'm your host, Eva Andrade. I'm here with my co-host, Marcus Oshiro. And like we like to do every other week, we're going to be talking about things like the government shutdown. We're going to be talking about Tylenol and autism. We're going to talk about Hawaii's political shakeups, economic outlook, and a renewed push for gambling. So stay tuned and let's chat about that. Marcus, are you ready to talk about all these crazy things we're going to talk about today? Well, you should be since you texted me.
On the eve of the great federal shutdown.
Yeah, I think that is a great place to start because to this day, I talk to people who do not understand what a government shutdown actually is and what it means. So why don't you give us a little bit of a government shutdown 101?
The federal government is operated on an annual basis. The fiscal year is October 1 through September 30th. So on October 1, it's the new fiscal year. So whatever monies were appropriated last year in 2024, it ends September 30th, 2025. And the new fiscal year starts October 1st.
So all this is happening this week.
It's going to be happening very soon. Like, what is today? Today is...
Well, this is going to be airing on Friday.
Okay.
So that means it has happened.
It has happened, and hopefully they have resolved it. And what we're saying today is not,
But we're assuming
relevant.
that it's not going to happen. So if you're listening this on Friday and it has been resolved, great, wonderful.
Yes.
That you can kind of ignore some of this that we're going to talk about.
Fast forward.
But if that it has not happened, then let's talk about that. So what a government shutdown we'll assume has happened.
Yes.
So what's going on?
The funding of government agencies, departments, services, because they have not funded it in the new fiscal year, they cannot go and work. So there are people who are not getting paid, will not get paid. There are departments, agencies, services that will not be done.
Military.
The military is an essential government feature. It will be funded, operated, and they will continue as usual. But
I knew that the big but was going to be brought into this conversation.
But any type of discretionary spending, even within the military services, may be restricted, constricted.
So God forbid, what would happen if there was like a conflict that needed to be funded?
If there was a conflict, then the president would probably violate the letter of the law, move forward in the spirit of the law, and using his discretionary executive powers, transfer any and all monies and violate that provision of expenditures to do the greater good and protect the interests of the country.
Well, because of all the stuff that's happening in Israel right now and the fight for peace and all that. I mean, people think that we're on the brink.
We're involved, definitely. Given the press conference that was held the other day with Bibi Netanyahu and President Trump and Marco Rubio and others, we are definitely involved in the conflict in the Middle East, in particular in Israel, in Gaza. Yes, we are definitely in there right now.
But that's only one of the many forks of this money, right? Because we're
there's
talking
still
about
Ukraine and Russia. There's still a buildup of China, in Far East Asia.
Right.
Watching what's going on of India and Pakistan, and North Koreans,
and that's just foreign war stuff. I mean, we could talk local stuff like tourism, right?
Oh yeah.
And we could
So Social Security will obviously continue on. Medicaid, Medicare. The basic entitlement services will be taken care of.
Federal government?
But federal government services will be affected. So Social Security, you get your Social Security check, you get your Medicaid, you get your Medicare. Those essential services will be provided. But I'll give an example locally. Okay, national parks. This happened when Trump was president, 2016. They'll be shut down. So the Arizona Monument will be shut down. Kilauea will be shut down. Haleakala will be shut down. I think Big Island Puhu or Honua will be shut down. any of these federal parks will be closed.
So do you think some of this discussion that's happening, and this is how I feel, and I could be wrong, and there's going to be people that are going to disagree with me, but don't you feel that a lot of times with this government shutdown stuff, it just becomes a matter of Dems and Republicans drawing that line in the sand, and they just it's almost like it's not. I don't think they want the government to be shut down, but they just won't give in. They're so stubborn.
Yeah. I think what the so-called negotiation or the leverage that the Democrats have right now is that the continuing resolution to fund the government services was approved in the House. Okay, so that's where the Republicans control. They have the majority. Goes to the Senate, but they don't have enough votes in the Senate, so they need to have the Democrats to buy in. The Democrats say, under Schumer, says, no way, Jose, we're not going to do it. We want X, Y, and Z. We want to, restore the Medicaid cuts. We want to make sure we want to restore the subsidization of Obamacare for low income.
So, am I assuming correctly then that both sides are being knuckleheads sometimes?
Yeah, I think that's the reality of it. It's a failure of both the left and the right, the Democrats and the Republicans. It's a failure upon all of them, the legislative branch.
This always goes back to the conversation we had about the right people should be elected in office and doing the right thing for their country. They're all going to point
fingers at each other. Yeah, they're going to have their rhetoric, spun out, right? Pointing fingers. But when you point fingers at someone, you're pointing back at yourself, right? So,
okay, so put on your pointy hat and tell me how do you think this is going to end?
I think they're going to have to reach a compromise at some point in time. I think people are going to start.
But can they?
They can. They can reach a compromise.
Will they?
No, they will. Eventually, they have to. I think the last time we went into a shutdown was over a month, like 35 days, 37 days.
Was that the longest in history?
I'm not sure, but it was a long time. And that was during President Trump.
Ah, okay.
Well, so he's been here before, so he's maybe a little bit more comfortable in taking this. But definitely people will be affected.
Okay, so in 2 weeks, we'll do an update and kind of see where we're at.
Yeah.
So we'll make a ticker on this. Okay, so let's talk about autism and Tylenol. That I'm telling you that I've got friends on both sides of the aisle that are going nuts over this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me. I listened to that press conference. I listened very carefully about it. I listened to President Trump. Okay. So President Trump has a tendency to overstate a fact. He has a tendency to overstate a policy declaration by his department heads, his secretaries. In this case, Kennedy, Bhattacharya, and the guys who are actually running the departments. So basically the idea was that we believe that there is a connection, a relationship between taking Tylenol when you're pregnant that may have some negative effects on the child and may have an effect upon autism. And so the warning is, unless you really need to use Tylenol as a pain relief, fever mitigating medicine, you should check with your doctor. And then with your doctor, make a decision. But we just want you guys to know that given the evidence we've seen, I think from Stanford or Harvard, and the research and studies that came out from these universities, there may be a strong correlation, and it's better to err on the side of being cautious than to continue taking and processing Tylenol as we've done for the last 20 years.
Well, I've had two children, and both times, and my oldest is 42 and my youngest is 37. So, it was a while ago when I was pregnant. And I will tell you, when I was pregnant, my physician at the time, and I had two different physicians with my girls, both of them said, don't take anything. It was more like, just try to, even for morning sickness and all that, they were like both, and these are two complete separate doctors. So they were erring on the side of, we're not 100% sure what this medication does to your unborn baby.
Yeah. So I think what made it so earth shattering and the world stood still for that moment in time was that no one has ever articulated that Tylenol, over the counter Tylenol, easily found in most drugstores throughout the country, very inexpensive medicine, could cause such catastrophic, irreversible effects upon a developing child. Yeah. And that was the warning it was given. And I think it even came out that the manufacturer itself had already put that into their white paper in the little, little disclosure. Like, you might want to check with your physician if you're going to be taking Tylenol for fever or while pregnant. So I think if you go home or you go to Long's or whatever other drugstore, look at the box. I think there's going to be a disclosure there.
I wonder if it's already there.
I think it's there.
Oh, see, so that's interesting because a lot of the misinformation that's out there too is that what they were really saying is it's Tylenol in combination with other medications. So not Tylenol by itself.
No,
that was some of the misinformation.
Well, it could be, but that's why I think you have to go back to your primary care physician or go to your attending physician and say, hey, I have a really terrible fever. I'm 9 months pregnant. Can I take this medication? Because again, it's over-the-counter medication.
Okay. Exactly. We're talking about medication.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So what role do you think the government and the medical community have in helping families get clear answers?
Well, I think that's
clear answers, not political.
I think the answer was clear. I think what Dr. Oz was saying was basically, if you have, a fever and you want some relief from your fever, if you're pregnant, you may want to think about whether or not you want to use Tylenol. He didn't say anything else, any other kind of medicine. He just said Tylenol. So seek your primary care physician or your attending physician. But I think that's as best as you can go because it's so individual.
Yeah.
But they had to go and flag the fact that, hey, we saw this report. I don't know if it was Harvard or Stanford or one of the Ivy League schools that seems to suggest there might be a relationship between Tylenol, pregnancy, and autism.
Well, even if we take Tylenol out of the conversation, what is the church's role in helping families that are struggling with a child that has autism? Because that's a real issue that's affecting real families.
Yeah, because the numbers are so astronomical.
Yes.
If you look at the numbers, that's why
California autism is off the chart.
Right. Right. What was it, 1 in 35 or 1 in 15?
It was unbelievable and more than any other state. So somebody needs to be looking at that, whether it's Tylenol or not.
No, so I'm glad that Secretary Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr., is looking into it because no other past administration ever looked into that. But it's one of those growing areas. If you got 1 of 35 boys, primarily boys, becoming autistic,
something's happening.
Is it the food? Is it the environment?
So get politics out of it, people, and find out for the sake of the kids.
Yeah. So again, putting the kids first.
Yeah, putting kids first. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. But again, even if they don't find the definitive answer, at least it's being asked. And I'm hoping that question stays afloat during this administration, even for the next administration, until we find out what's causing this.
Yes.
Because we knew when it came in the 80s, how it just spiked. Right? So what's going on? We can study that. We can learn that. Americans have the technology, ingenuity.
And people want to know.
And people want to know.
They really want to know. And it's like, you know what? I'm so sick of this. It's like, well, the Dems believe this and the Republicans believe this. It's like, it should have nothing to do with that.
I got 2 special need nephews, okay? And they're both on the spectrum, autism spectrum, okay? And they're going to have a different life than you and me.
Yeah.
And Reagan. They're going to have a different life.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yep.
But going forward, I think we owe it to the next generation to see if we can find a cure or some preventative measures so that we can not have,
Absolutely, because we still have our some of us have grandkids and will have great grandkids that are yet to be, and I want them to find out what the answer is, so that because it's already a problem, and we need to find out why so we can fix it. So that sounds good. I gotta come down now. I'm mad. Okay, all right. Now this is interesting. So let's talk about the political climate here in Hawaii and all the millions of people that are now running against Representative Ed Case.
Well, I don't think there are a million. I know there's 2. I think there is Senator Garrett Keokalole. He's from the windward side. I think he's been around about maybe 10 or 12 years.
And Representative Della Al-Baladi.
She's been around about 20 years. Representative Della Al-Baladi, formerly the majority leader of the House Democratic
Marcus,
Caucus.
this is rare. this is rare that you normally have, in the Democratic Party, there tends to be a lot of support, right, for people. But this is interesting. Why is this happening?
Well, there's reason why there's no rubber stamp is that there are those in the Democratic Party, maybe more on the progressive side of the Democratic Party, that believes that Ed Case has not been toting the line and following the script along with his other congressional delegates, Schatz, Hirono, or even Takuda. He kind of like a lone wolf, and maybe a blue dog Democrat.
Yep.
But Ed has always been a blue dog Democrat from day one.
Right.
He's always been able to be more centrist, work across the aisle quite comfortably, come back into the fold, go across the aisle comfortably, come back to the fold. So I think I can see why that might irritate some true blue 100%ers. But, I will say this. It's hard to take out an incumbent. The incumbency gives you tremendous staying power unless you really mess up really bad.
Now,
it's hard.
Because they're both in office right now. They're
Yes.
both in the House of Representatives, right? Keohalole is a senator.
Yeah.
So do they have to resign their position to run?
I believe he has a pass because he has a 4-year term. So he's not up in 2026. He's up in 2028. So he can cast his hat in for the 2026 election for the congressional seat, which is a 2-year term. However, Representative Della Al-Baladi has to make a choice come November, come filing deadline, to either run again in her House seat or to go in, as a candidate for the congressional seat currently held by incumbent Ed Case.
So here's what Republicans can think about, right? And I'm not speaking as a Republican. I am not a Republican, but I mean, just something to think about.
You're just speculating about what they can do.
Well, no, I want people to think about politically, right?
Yeah.
So obviously Republicans would want a Republican to be elected, right?
Sure.
So they're going to have the question of, do I cast my vote for this Republican or do I cast my vote on the Democratic ticket?
Yeah.
Now, here's the question that's going to be before them. And I want them to think about this now ahead of time. So your choice is you could cast a vote for your Republican candidate. Of course you can. But the other thing that sometimes is a political move is to cast a vote for the lesser of two evils on the Democratic ticket. So they could pull the Democratic ticket to support a moderate Ed Case, or if they want to cast a vote for a progressive like Baladi. So that sometimes a Republican can pull a Democratic ticket in the primary.
Yeah.
Because they want to make a statement.
Yeah, I think they do. And I also like to add that people may happen, but it hasn't, in my experience, turned any election.
No, but it is going to be for a Republican. For Democrats, they're going to get behind whoever they're going to get behind.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But for a Republican during the primary, sometimes that is a decision they could make, that they'd rather, if I don't want a Democrat to win, this is what they'd be thinking. I don't want a Democratic person to win, but I definitely don't want a progressive person or whatever reason.
Right. Yeah, I'd rather have more moderate, more conservative bent or more blue dog than, strict progressiveness.
Yeah, and I want to make it very clear that I'm not making any statements one way or another about who to vote for. I'm just saying that sometimes during an election here in Hawaii, in the primary, because you do not have to pick.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to pick one, but you're not forever and all what you pick.
Right. It's open.
So it's an open election. Yeah. So that's just something to think about. So all right, let's move to the next thing. Oh my gosh, let's talk about the Hawaii's economic outlook. And again, because you wanted to talk about gambling again, as we always end up talking about gambling. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think your hero, University of Hawaii Economic Research Organization, came out this past week with a really downer projection for next year that, tourism is slowing down. Consumption is slowing down, less flights, less people spending discretionary spending.
The Polynesian Cultural Center is
Oh, yeah.
letting people go because they cannot afford the minimum wage increase.
Yeah, that's kicking in also, right?
And I remember that coming up, Marcus, at the legislature, because, especially the Catholic Church fights very hard, for the minimum wage. But I remember that there's always people that come up at these hearings and say, people are going to lose their jobs because not everybody can afford the raise in minimum wage.
Yeah, and I think the timing of the tariffs kicking in, the uncertainty there, the idea that we might be going into recession, some kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy when you use the R word, recession.
Yeah,
it's kind of self-fulfilling in a way,
Yep.
So got to be careful using that, but it's out there already. That's going to cause consumer spending to go down, be more conservative as we go into the holiday Christmas season. So we shall see when the Council of Revenue comes back in latter part of this year to see what's going on in our economy in the next quarter. So October, November, December, we're going to see what happens there. But given what they know right now, yeah, we're going to be in for a ride.
Yeah, we're going to have to stay on top of this, Marcus. We may have to always have a segment to talk about the economy. But, with the minimum wage, I want to go back to that for a second because we're not done yet. The minimum wage is being raised by $2, which is going to take effect next year, right? And then it's still got to go up another $2 in 2 years. Because we're going to be the highest in the we're going to have the highest minimum wage in the nation, is my understanding. And if we're not like the highest, we're going to be tied with other states that are high as well. But are we ready for that? Are we really ready for that? It's been passed. That was passed.
It's a law. Okay, so it's going to lead to some consolidation. It's going to be some layoffs. There's going to be some adjustments. Who knows? A mixed bag. But given what's going on in the federal government right now, we need to factor in the tariffs, the budget limitations. Even shutting down, government, and those are going to have impact.
Yeah, this is like it's a trifecta of bad stuff happening.
Yeah,
right
uncertainty does terrible things for the market and the economy, and personal, consumption is what drives the economy.
Yep. So are you saying then that the reason that the legislature keeps looking at stuff like gambling and marijuana is because of this?
Well,
and even if they go that route, is that going to solve the problem?
Answer, no. But let me tell you, 2008 was a great recession, and just by chance, 2008 was when most of these states who now have gambling, online gambling, casino gambling,
when they passed it.
That's when they started looking at it because they were caught in the Great Recession. They lost billions of dollars. The federal government kicked in some. There were still monies to be had, and they went into gambling. And that's what they did. So similarly, that same playbook is probably going to be followed by this year's legislature, 2026 section. Short term, doesn't guarantee a fix, costs more than the gain, and any representation that it's going to help for housing or education or healthcare or kupuna, I can sell you a bridge in Brooklyn.
They're spitting in the wind. They're spitting in the wind.
That's nasty.
Yeah, that's what they do. It's going to go back. I know. Sorry for the visual. Everybody listening and watching.
Okay.
Well, it's true.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they think that it's not going to come back and
it's going to come back and bite you and be nasty.
It's going to hit you in the face. Yeah, man. I've seen people like driving and they'll like spit out the window and then it flies back in. It's nasty.
This gaming fanaticism is crazy. I was listening to this podcast the other day. It said 50% of all their income comes from 4% of their players. 4% of their players, those are the gambling addicts. 50% of their income of these businesses come from those addicted gamblers. 95% of people who play lose. So 95 cents on a dollar is kept by the company. Okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping that within the next few months, because you're going to do a lot you're going to get a lot of information in some, like you're going to conferences
I'm
and
going to
stuff
go
like
and
that.
spend my time and dime to
Yeah.
learn from the best, the
The
professionals.
best of the best, and we're even going to have the best of the best on the show. We'll have
we'll have him.
We'll have Les on the show and to talk, because we have to keep the conversation going. And you know what? For those viewers and listeners that support gambling, then you know what? I'm warning you now. Too bad that we're going to continue to beat that.
We can have the honest debate and discussion, but let's have it on the facts, on the reality. Let's not speculate and let's not go and pretend.
Yep.
This is going to be the fix all panacea. It's not.
And why? Because we're always going to go back to what's best for the kids.
That's what's best for the kids.
So
we always talk about that. It's about,
we do.
It's about the cake. It's about the future and the most precious people we have.
Yep.
The resources is the cake. We always say that.
Yep, and we will resign when we change our position and decide
let's put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, and I will. I have. But I won't bet because I'm horrible at it. And
don't bet.
You will win.
Yeah, and I will win.
Everyone will win.
Yeah,
you definitely want to have you.
Yeah.
So where does Hawaii stack up in compared to the rest of the country when it comes to what's happening with the economy and the recession? Do you think we're going to be worse off?
I think we're such a unique economy, and we're affected by military, construction, ag, and tourism. Ag is okay. Military is still there because we're a vital, strategic location. Tourism is slowing down. That's the concern we have. I think it's something like 3 out of 10 jobs are tourism based. So that's a big number of people and families that will be affected if it slows down.
Marcus, families are being attacked so much in today's world. I mean, I'm thinking about the shooting in the LDS church.
Oh.
I am just as horrified with that one as I was with the killing of Charlie Kirk and the shooting in the Catholic school. I mean, I'm so tired of hearing this over and over again. Lives are being lost, families are being destroyed. And you know what? My heart does go out to the shooters too, because they're broken and they need healing and they need the hope of Jesus in their life. And they need a word of that the future is going to be good. But Marcus, we're being bombarded over and over again by all the nastiness. I mean, I know Jesus is the answer. Is the answer, but how do we swim out of this tsunami that we're in?
I think it's, your neighbor is your brother. Who is my brother? Your neighbor is your brother. So if your neighbor next door is not happy, you know it. You got to peer over the fence. You got to go and knock on the door. How you doing? Can I help you? I mean, that's what it is, right? And that's where our faith, rubber meets the road, right? I mean, that's what we can do individually.
Right. Right. Well, we have just a couple minutes left. Let's give some messages of hope, because last week we talked about why it's important to put the kids first, right? And that's something we gotta do. Then today we just talked about all this craziness that's happening. So let's end on some hope. What is your favorite scripture, Marcus?
Well,
there's got to be one that you always go to when you need to find hope.
Oh. One is be strong and courageous. Have I not commanded you? I always go before you. Your light is a path upon my feet. Be anxious for nothing.
I like the final verse in Matthew that says that I will be with you always, even unto the end of the age. Yeah. And I love that, because it's that promise that whether things are good or bad, we have this foundation that will walk with us through the storm. And we're in a storm right now. We're in a crazy, crazy storm.
We are.
And just like the disciples on the boat, everything was going crazy, and they look up and they see our Savior walking on the waves. Come over here. And only one was daring enough to get out and walk towards them.
I give him props.
Hey.
And you know what happened to him, right?
Jeez. Yes. Yes. And I think about that all the time because we grew up in Hawaii, so we know what it's like to be in waves that are going crazy.
Right.
And if you get caught in that curl, you're
it's
sucked
scary.
under
It's
and you're
scary.
thrown out on this. And that's going to happen with the recession and with all the crazy things that are happening with the government shutdown and all that. We're going to be thrown to the shore. We're going to be tossed and turned. But the good news is...
But Ohana, no one gets left behind. We pull everybody together. We're going to go forward. Ho'omua, we're going to go forward together.
Amen. Because how good is the feet of him who bring good news.
Amen.
And so when I'm tumbling on that sand, I'm going to reach out for those feet.
And I'll be there.
And you'll be there too. We thank you all for spending your time with us today. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every time we upload a new video. And we will see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.